don't get a quorum, you can't formally call the meeting to order, but you could hold an informational
We'll still go through the
meeting and review the draft report, but you can't call to order, you can't take public comment, you can't approve minutes, and you can't take any action on the draft report.
Could we take public comment, but it just wouldn't count? Just for fun, you know, like, okay.
No, because the public comment doesn't count unless you have a meeting called to order.
Right.
So it's just kind of
I'm just trying to be nice.
Yeah.
Okay, I didn't want to say.
So essentially, we don't have, we can just jump right into the review of the document.
Keith, have you heard from Scott?
I know Scott's not gonna be there, but I haven't heard from anyone
I
else.
texted Kyle just now, so I don't have Jeff's number, but.
Boyd is.
Oh, yeah, Boyd. I could LinkedIn message Jeff. I mean,
You have
we
Boyd's?
need one.
Okay.
I would wait another minute, at least another couple minutes, PJ, if that's
Sure.
okay.
Can I ask a question? I don't know what, I was gonna ask a question.
No, you do not.
Is the vision with the report, I understand we'll go through the red line, the clean, is there, like a preamble, executive summary, sort of like telling like the backdrop? I'm thinking of like new council people, new people that haven't been around and paying attention for 10 years. Is there like a 2-page executive summary sort of setting up the updated report? Or maybe I missed it.
No,
It's
it's,
good possibility.
right, yeah. I think what we tried to do here is we took the format
From last time.
from the guidance that the chair gave last time,
So we could.
Who is that idiot?
We could spend the first 30 minutes on that topic.
It's a short conversation. I blame the vice chair
I think-
from last time.
I think you're right, Brian. We could certainly add, I don't think we're gonna wordsmith that here, but I think we certainly could give some context to, you know, again, reviewing the fact that this program has been in place since 2012 and we've had, you know, multiple iterations of the update, and this is sort of the last check-in after the 2020.
Yeah, I'm just
Yeah.
envisioning like someone
Yeah.
showing up
Right.
now and just reading.
It's like,
this
oh,
just
where did this
report.
come from?
Yeah, just
right.
like, yeah, not a huge, I mean, you probably got all of the docs, it's just in
Yeah.
the presentation.
And even if you do it in such a way where you can find more information, like even
Yeah,
some
see
links.
the original report?
Well, and I think the other thing is the context is the city has now, you know, created a webpage, you know, dedicated to the
Oh, yeah.
CP, and it's got all that history
Oh,
in
that-
it.
that
Like,
makes
this is like a line item in it, you know, that this is one of the links in it ultimately, is like, okay, what's the latest, series of,
Yeah.
strategies that's been adopted? So the webpage kind of gives it some context, but it doesn't hurt probably that the document also maybe,
Yeah.
does a little bit of that.
You guys run any kind of analytics around like how many people like click on this stuff from the city website and like actually read it?
We can, but because we have so much stuff.
Yeah.
Well, we do, but it's not like we,
Okay, yeah, cool.
but anytime that we wanna know like who's been on this page, yeah.
Cool. When I was looking through it, I was like, oh, I'm coming in fresh, like, this is interesting, but I don't really understand the broader.
I think the ironic part is.
Jeff's on his way in.
Yes.
What's that?
Jeff's on his way
We
in.
just need one more.
Okay.
Sweet with Jeff.
All right. Yeah, cause that, you know, this was actually the meeting.
Yeah.
We really wanted to have everybody in, all of them, and I think we actually got pretty positive response.
Yeah.
So I'm a little kind of surprised that Scott's issue came up, had to do with conflict with his emergency planning work. So,
Kyle said there'll be a couple late, so Kyle will be here. So
Okay,
good,
cool.
but Kyle's here too.
all right.
That's all good.
Well, Jeff, go.
Oh. Sorry, I'm a couple minutes late. Okay, it's 4:05 p.m. on Wednesday, December 10, 2025. We'll call to order the Community Energy Plan Strategic Development Team. Dave, could you do the roll call?
I'll try to do that.
Here.
Williams,
Here.
Feltman, Schultheis,
Present.
Christians,
Here.
Corbin, Engers, Chair Thompson.
Here.
You have quorum.
We have quorum. Thank you. At this time, we'll open our meeting up to public comment. We provide an opportunity for anybody who would like to address the committee, a chance to do so, requesting you state your name and address for the record and adhere to a 3-minute speaking limit. Any public comment today? Yes.
Yes, I'm Peter, I'm Peter Everts, 975 Mallard Court, Holland, 49424. I just wanted to say thank you to all of you. I've been part of these meetings, attended these meetings since September, and I've been impressed with its structure and its candor. Last meeting, there was some discussion about the carbon fund, and the candor about that was there wasn't as much time or energy given to that as I think what you all desired. And I have been contributing to that fund through the Community Foundation and believe in it. I've also a member of HASP and was responsible for organizing a general meeting in which I forgot who the woman was from Community Foundation who spoke, but there was also someone from ODC presenting about that fund program. I'd love to see that flourish and take off, and be happy to, as a HASP member, try to see what I can do to encourage folks who might want to keep contributing to that, or might even have connections with the business community, as you were talking about that being a possibility to develop this plan. So I just wanted to offer that to you. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes.
My name's Laura Judge, 6510 Oakwood Lane, Holland. Mainly, thank you for all your hard work. It's been enjoyable watching these proceedings and just the level of expertise that this whole organization has is always very impressive. Couple things. Just wanted to encourage more collaboration maybe with local industry, the big commercial and industrial customers, trying to gather some of that information from them that you've talked about a little. Another thing that I recently came across was there is this software called Solar App Plus, and I was going to give these papers to Andrew. It's a software, it's was federally developed, it's free. Couple states, California and Maryland, have passed laws mandating its use. It makes the whole approval process for like solar and batteries. Somebody wants to put solar on the rooftop or whatever, it's streamlined, very quick, and I'm just asking you to take a look at it, and maybe if it is something that you think might be good, to try to promote it area-wide, bring in some of these smaller townships that maybe don't have the expertise that you all have, to kind of bring them along, maybe through the MAC or something, even though it's not really transportation. But so yeah, I'll leave this with Andrew. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comment? Seeing none, we'll close public comment. Would the board like to take action on the minutes from November 12th?
So moved.
Support.
Move to approve.
That's a motion by Christians, supported by Williams. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The minutes have passed. Okay, at this time, we'll turn it over to Joel to review our report.
All right, and Joe's going to bring that up. So in your packet today, there was both a red line and a clean version, basically starting with the 2021 report. Just tried to reflect what we heard from the group throughout these meetings and just kind of wanted to walk through that today. Hopefully these make sense. Any tweaks we need to make, we can do that here. And then hopefully have this ready to present to council. We'll see if we can get through that this evening. So maybe Joe, if you want to start on the first lever, electric portfolio, we'll just kind of walk through here. Please let me know if you have questions, concerns as we go through. So the first red line you'll see there, and I guess in this case blue lines on this particular screen. Target 2, I think we talked about this. This is just aligning with how we're actually measuring that, making sure we have that wider pool of utilities to compare against. And just for clarification, what we're really looking at, electric utilities, it's utilities that participate with the EIA 861 reporting. So the Energy Information Administration, that's a report that really comes in for all electric utilities and reports this information. That's where we're getting that data. So just for background, but this just aligns with what we previously talked about. So getting down into the strategies, strategy 1, that little change there was really just aligning more the terminology with the actual, more the name there, power purchase agreement. So just minor. Strategy 2, this is where we start to get into more some of the discussions that the group had. So you'll see that first one, we've removed the reassess the pricing structure to recognize economies associated with scale purchases. Again, just kind of reiterating that was done as a corporate tactical action a couple of years ago, and this is a process we review that annually and go through those updated calculations to make sure we're reflecting that value of solar. And then the new bullet point you'll see there is just evaluating new REC offerings for large customers that better cater to their corporate decarbonization goals. Again, this is really kind of to the public comment, listening to our industries, how can we coordinate with them better? We've heard from many of them that RE100 is something that they really look at. So we want to look at a product that potentially aligns with that to help facilitate their goals. Strategy 3, this is one we kind of talked about coming off the board, and we kind of walked through these different bullet points last time on kind of why we're there, but we have a new strategy 3, kind of scrolling down to the next page. And this is something that kind of came out that we didn't reflect. In all honesty, some of these technologies are a little early, but this is really looking at that potential for the non-renewable clean energy, so the low or no carbon generation resources. This is going to be your nuclear, your combined cycle with carbon capture and sequestration. Kind of leaving it open here. I know the legislation is very specific on things you can use. We wanted this a little broader, obviously the community energy plan, so other technologies may arise. So underneath that, you're seeing some potential action plans, investigating ownership entitlements and power purchase agreements for clean energy resource developments as those opportunities arise, because generally that's participating in a bigger project, so we really need for those opportunities to come forward. But then also more local control thing here, continuing our investigations of the feasibility of retrofitting Holland Energy Park longer term with carbon capture and sequestration. So any questions on electric portfolio? Any concerns that we missed something, or maybe we didn't capture something quite right?
There's maybe one comment on strategy 2. Wonder if a slight change to the wording of that strategy. So I think the elective renewable energy rate, increasing that, but should we broaden that a little bit and kind of include people participating in the the renewable rate, but also, I guess, kind of like pushing in the theme of strategy 3, like if they're purchasing renewable energy through BPW, but also if they're building renewable energy generation on site, they're putting solar on the roof of my ears or whatever, like that is kind of captured in that as well. Like maybe increasing the adoption of renewable energy or the elective renewable energy rate. Like you can purchase it from us, that's great, or you could generate it on site. Is that kind of capturing the spirit of strategy 3 and strategy 2? I guess one of the things that I talked about when we were talking about this is maybe it makes sense as a community to have a meeting with a diverse group of stakeholders and saying, you know, what are there roadblocks that we as a city can lift in terms of, you know, and a lot of those exist at the state level and the federal level for distributed generation.
Yeah,
I don't know. Does that make sense? Make more sense?
That's the word. I think we were, you know, when you said distributed generation, I think that's the word here. Maybe that could go in as you increase the adoption of both distributed generation and electric renewable energy among our customer base. You know, to the extent that that's, you know,
would that be
makes sense?
A sensible broadening?
If that's
to that
where you're
point?
going.
That's
with it,
kind of
I
where
think,
I'm.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think the only thing I would say to that is I know we do speak to that in a couple of the other, you know, levers that maybe, you know, I think when we get into some of the energy waste reduction, we have some things in here that talk about that, I think, as well as, you know, the carbon offsets, we talk about some of that. So I guess, can we maybe put a pin on it and come back to it if we could, Joe? Just, I want to see, Jeff, if maybe we have you captured somewhere else here. Happy to revisit it. I mean, if you feel strong that it needs to be here, I don't object by any means. I just also don't want to necessarily be redundant in different spots here, although it does.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Because it's under the building energy consumption, we have some discussions
Correct.
about it there. Maybe we want to jump there a minute just to
Yep.
see if it satisfies it as opposed to, because we're at the end of the portfolio. Unless there are other comments anyway, maybe it's good just to jump to where that is and see if it needs to be reflected under portfolio versus the building energy consumption.
Correct.
Then maybe Joel.
Yeah, we'll admit to reading through this a little bit, but not in maybe enough detail to catch that later.
Review the internal approval.
Correct.
Customer-owned distributed generation.
It's the last bullet point under strategy 1 there. I don't know if that captures some of what you're looking for, or if you think something more is needed. And I think this came from some of your
Yeah, I do
prior
like
comments.
the wording there.
Yeah, and the reason that wasn't an action step under the previous lever was because it was previously referring specifically to the rate, and so that wouldn't have made sense under when it was just the rate. But with the addition that we were just considering, we could move this action step up under that one, I think.
correct, because
Yeah, with this action step, like distributed generation, does that fit under buildings or the electric portfolio is maybe the question.
Yeah.
and I guess the way I think it's been looked at to date is kind of where the ownership lies. So like the electric portfolio has really been focused on, you know, the BPW controlled aspects, whereas the building consumption is really then more the consumer.
More on the consumer side. I think that makes sense as a general, like put the ownership on the electric to the BPW owned stuff.
We could be optimizing the energy waste reduction program and distributed generation program.
Yeah.
I don't think that would be a bad change there.
If that's the change to strategy 1 is making sure that that's
Yeah, I think
I
that
like that.
strategy
Highlighted a little
1
bit.
isn't clear enough that distributed generation is part of the mix, even though the potential action steps kind of bring it in. I think you're exactly
I
right.
like that
You could
wording
improve the
change
wording
on-
under the strategy to make sure that there's work going on there to really emphasize the DG program. So
No, excellent.
I think
So-
that makes sense.
Good.
I guess with that in mind, you know, and jump back to the portfolio, maybe just to close that out then before we move into the,
Yeah,
more
was there
fully
any-
into building energy consumption.
Anything further under the electric portfolio? Right? Good.
I guess maybe this is a meaningless change, but then strategy 2, what the action steps, one is the elective renewable energy rate as the strategy, but then it's really about like that rate and also, you know, capturing the rec purchases and things that are already existing. Is that, I guess that's not exactly clear from the strategy that would be a
The rec-
piece of the
You're
pie.
talking the consumer rec purchases.
Yeah, evaluate new rec offering. I guess that's more in the carbon offsets. Okay.
Correct. Correct.
Yes,
Sorry.
a little bit later
Yep.
again.
Gotcha.
Yeah, yep.
I'm all over the math, I guess.
It's okay. Yeah, it's all going towards the same thing, but
Yeah.
it's, again, the delineation of the ownership
Yep.
piece
No,
is
that
probably
makes
really
total
important.
sense.
Yeah.
Makes total
Yep.
sense.
Yep.
Very good. All right, so let's move on.
This is exam week. Come on, guys. Need to. Whew. All right.
All right. So, under the building energy consumption, strategy 1, you will see we had some edits. We just further edited that strategy to really focus on it. I think this came out as kind of the key word there being optimize. How do we optimize that program? And I like the addition of distributed generation because it ties into the bullet point addition there too. So you'll see the new bullet points kind of we have under this strategy. Develop a home and or business energy efficiency recognition program. Andrew spoke to that. Develop meter data analytics and potential reporting incentives to assist in the identification of customer improvements implemented outside of HPPW's incentive program that may still provide savings toward energy waste reduction targets. We had some discussion around that. If we have heat pumps that are going in that aren't necessarily going through our incentive program that may still be valuable to capture, and if there's value to capture, maybe there is a reporting incentive there. So that's something we're going to look at. And then the one we just spoke to, the review the internal approval processes for customer-owned distributed generation projects for opportunities to increase overall customer experience and adoption rate. Those all make sense under strategy 1. Any additions, deletions, edits? Good. Strategy 2, you'll see a couple new action steps as well here under the electrification of energy consuming devices and all customer classes. You'll see, and this is another one Andrew spoke to, the evaluating the potential for residential electric heating rate. So if their usage, their change in usage pattern potentially justifies a change in rate based on the cost there. So that's something we'll look at. And then developing more electrification guidance and incentives for commercial and industrial customers. I think that was another kind of focal point in the discussions. And I'm just going to highlight
one comment on strategy 2, and this is, I apologize, I guess, in advance. Do we have anybody in BPW service territory that's like has propane heat? Is everybody in natural gas heat?
Boy, I don't know that 100%. Yeah, there may be some at the far extremes of the townships. We do serve the contiguous townships. They wouldn't fall under our evaluation of the community plan because the boundary of the community plan is limited to the city of Holland. But
in out in the townships,
yeah,
because that would be
yeah.
like that's if you're looking at bang for the buck on heat pumps.
Right.
If you have propane, those are the customers that are going to have the most financial incentive to keep your propane heat, but add a heat pump to cover 90% of your heating. Yeah. Okay, but maybe not fitting here. And obviously, they would already be in the rebates and all of the things there.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, good question. On the subject of heat pumps, maybe before we move on, just kind of wanted to hit it, because there may be some questions as well, because another thing that came up frequently was some of the working with the contractors, and I just want to point out that will be coming up in the education piece, so just highlight that. Strategy 3, this was one we talked about removing. So you'll see that has been removed in the red lines there. Strategy, what was 4, which becomes 3, just moves up. The prior strategy 5 moves to 4, and you'll see in here an addition, a couple changes here coming out of the discussions. One, I think there was, I'll say to the last bullet point, I think there was a comment made about the carbon disclosure project not necessarily being in good graces these days, so we just kind of took that out and just more focused on
Yeah, I noticed
standard.
the change, and I support how
Good.
it's currently. You're much safer,
Yep.
being more directional than specific with these things.
Yep.
Just whack them all out there.
And then the other addition there, I think this came from some comments, PJ, you made about, how can we really engage with these industrial customers to figure out how they're measuring their performance and sustainability against their industry peers. So that's really what that second bullet point is about.
Or against themselves over
Or
time.
against themselves, correct. And that may feed into some future programs in Andrew's area. So I think that's good input.
I think that the comment fits under the strategy. I don't see it in other places. Last time we met, we talked about using the awarding of contracts as an opportunity to evaluate environmental stewardship. So I think it fits underneath this strategy. And it could be, his 5-year plan so we can evaluate methods for city and BPW contracts to be evaluated with environmental considerations. So I'd like to see that added. If it doesn't fit here, I'm good with it fitting somewhere else, but this feels like the right spot.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of another spot.
Was this the, like in the procurement process?
Yes.
Like one of the things on the scorecard, as it were, and your recommendation is to include, like, evaluate whether to put it in or not over the next 5 years?
Or evaluate methods to implement it. I think Scott and I are uniquely in positions to make sure that it happens, but how it happens
I guess
is still a question mark.
my one question would be, does that fit under this? If we're going to do something, does it fit under this strategy? Does it fit under the next strategy, which really again speaks to more what we're specifically, of course, you're talking beyond just our buildings, you're talking in general, any contracts we're doing.
That's correct. I think one of the prime examples was sanitation services, right? So when we evaluate different sanitation contracts, it would be relevant info for us to go, hey, tell us about your environmental stewardship, because that matters to us. And it's as vague a topic as, it's better vague than specific.
So it's not, I'm asking a clarifying question. So it's not if they're located in the city or not, which of course is what drives the area that we're trying to measure here, but it's a nod to we're possibly, and quite frankly, right, most of the stuff that we purchase, even service-wise, isn't necessarily in the city, so we're buying some widget from someone that's produced somewhere else. So we'd start evaluating our procurements based upon their environmental practices.
Not based on, but in
A factor
consideration
in.
of, right? So like the fiber project is a good one too, right? So as we're determining what fiber vendor to use, we go, hey, tell us about how
and maybe particularly if they're providing while they're providing services in our jurisdiction
Yes,
is more.
that's a better way to characterize it, yeah.
I just want to make sure I was on point where
Yeah, it's
I think
more services that we're contracting as
that are
opposed to widgets that we're
provided within
purchasing.
the city.
Yeah.
And you're just viewing this as one of many differentiating factors when you're reviewing bids, basically.
Yes, yeah, not the prime, not
Yep.
the sole,
Consider or evaluate
but
the
A.
addition of
Yep.
Yeah.
in the procurement processes.
Joe, you got that all written up?
Yeah, I don't mind typing it
Yeah,
and sending it, but.
it
but
kind of
is-
straddles both building, energy consumption, and transportation. I mean, because
Yeah.
again, these things could be, impacting the whole transportation footprint that's out there if it really relates to, hey, what kind of vehicles are you using? What are your idling policies? What are the different things that you're doing out there from that standpoint? If it's a matter of, from
Yeah.
what are you doing to our buildings? Probably more transportation or maybe even education. We could figure out how to get it in education and broaden that lever even maybe to education and policy, maybe something like that as a lever that's more general, because, I just don't know if I can shoehorn it into this particular lever.
Or
But,
we could expand strategy 5
Yeah.
to talk about buildings, but then
Procured services.
procured,
Okay, yeah.
and other procured services
So
that are
the-
provided within.
Right, kind of the basics are like you're contracting the whatever like waste services, and we should, if bids are generally the same, you don't want the company that's dumping everything in the Grand River and that's why they're cheap versus the company that's actually doing a good job.
My 2 cents, my 2 cents on this is that we would put it in education as like a thing to like look into over the next few years, as opposed to, I mean, if you add it to strategy 5, I mean, then you got to redo all of strategy 5, because right now you've got strategy 5, there's by 80% relative to 2015 levels. How are you gonna
Yeah, it's
how
hard to
are you
measure.
gonna add purchase goods and services into that piece? You'd have to like eliminate that piece, which gets back to now we're changing the strategy completely. I think it's really smart. It's this is a values thing, right? Like, we're Holland, we have a community energy plan, we care about things. Here's one of the things we care about. But fundamentally, I think it's, at this point in time, I think it could sit in
Yeah.
education.
I do too.
As like we're gonna look at how to incorporate more intentional procurement practices as a way to educate
Right.
contractors and other providers who want to do business with the city. So
Yeah,
that
'cause
would
we
be where I
kind of
would
often
put it.
thought about education as being kind of the end user, but it doesn't have to be. It can be also, like I said, trade allies, contractors.
Yeah,
It could be,
100%.
again, educating our own contractors we're using for normal services about how to be better stewards. I mean, yeah, those things fit under education, I think, pretty well, so.
And then in 3 years, when we meet again, and we've learned some stuff, we could slot it somewhere else if it made more obvious sense somewhere else. That's how I would.
Yeah, and I'm less advocating where it lands, just as long as it lands somewhere.
Well, I think, when I was just looking at this, I'm wondering about under education lever strategy 2, which says engage directly with business include a call to action. I'm almost wondering, with a title like that, if we could put something about investigating this.
Yeah, or under education, add strategy 6, you're saying? Yeah, okay.
Okay.
We'll delineate that, Joe. Under education, we'll have strategy 6. It talks about
Add strategy.
evaluate possible, or
Investigate options in developing a city and HBPW procurement strategy.
yeah, be a
So
new
there'd
strategy.
be a new strategy 6 under key lever education.
Yep.
It's all right.
We'll see if I can either do it offline or I'll work on it. I'll come over to you.
options for investigate adjustments to procurement policies at the Holland, at BPW and city to incorporate contractor sustainability practices into the evaluation method.
And that satisfies
Yeah,
your
yeah,
requesting?
yeah, I think so, and appreciate the discussion on it. I think this is gonna show others that if you wanna do business with us, this is something that matters to us.
Yep. All right, I think that brings us back to strategy. I think we're at strategy 5 under the building energy consumption. So here we have the elect 100% renewable energy obviously comes off because we've accomplished that one. We have a couple new bullet points coming in here. And this was kind of around some of that discussion, how the city and BPW continue to kind of push here. So investigate electric and alternative fuel options for all new and replacement heating systems at our buildings, and then shift purchases of non-vehicle motorized equipment to electric alternatives where service performance allows. So hopefully that kind of accomplishes what we were hoping there. And strategy 7 was the other one that we talked about coming off. Anything further on building energy consumption? Good. All right, moving on to transportation. The first, you see a minor tweak there on target 1, and this is really, we got those incentives in place by 2023, so just kind of shifting that to let's maintain those through 2030 now that we have something there. And then as far as the strategies, not a lot of changes under this key lever, but you will see under strategy 2, we kind of took off the one about the research and leverage grant monies. The bus electrification in particular seemed pretty specific, tried to make that more of a all-encompassing with the new bullet point there, which is assist nonprofits and multifamily developments with investigating EV charging options, including assisting in the identification of potential grant programs that may be applicable. So kind of replacing that one with something a little more broad, if that makes sense. Any additional feedback on transportation? Right. Excellent.
Yeah, just quick question. Control F not working so well for me. The walkability plan that the city has, didn't we tie that in our discussions? It just might be, maybe it's inherently in something in here.
So the walkability, you thinking?
Yeah, it was mentioned in the presentation, but
Yeah.
it wasn't necessarily a checkbox that was outlined by this group 3 years ago. It was just something that had been done in the last 3 years and was worth noting.
Is
there
that
wasn't
something
any new
we
action.
can highlight in one of the strategies to keep going? Like, there's linkage,
Sure.
right? Obviously. Maybe under strategy 1 is to.
That's what I was wondering under the community mobility.
Yeah,
if
I mean,
that's
it's
something on the-
it's a last mile solution in a lot of ways, right? I mean,
Yeah.
trying to create different transportation alternatives, including non-motorized,
Yeah.
which, that's what I think some of the work of the non-motorized vehicle or plan that was adopted recently, achieves.
Yeah, I think maybe it would, instead of even altering the language in the strategy, just add an additional possible action step
Yes.
Yeah, just.
of work with work with partners to continue implementation of the city's non-motorized
There
plan.
you go. Yeah,
Is-
perfect.
I guess-
Thank you.
So one thing that around strategy one that we did have a fair bit of discussion about is this, especially strategy one exists kind of broader than us. And this, like, develop a partnership with MAC, and Lakeshore Advantage and these things is a thing that we would want to do. Does it make sense for that to be the language that is currently strategy one to be a possible action step? And then strategy one be a little bit more general to try to encompass like both community mobility strategic plan, but also last mile solutions like walkability, to try to capture more of that in the strategy? I don't know if this is a good idea.
So you'd basically take strategy one and replace those first two bullet points.
So
which
the overall strategy really is, I mean, this particular one, I think, is getting at vehicle miles traveled.
Yeah.
Right.
Right?
So that,
So I mean, you could make it as simply that, you know, you're working on, your strategy is
The
to
strategy-
find solutions that reduce vehicle miles traveled within the community.
and part of
And
that
then one of that would
is
be the mobility plan. one would
mobility
be last
plan that
mile
we think
solutions. I
is a
mean,
great, yeah.
You
So
could do that. I mean, you could broaden the strategy if you wanted in that regard, but
Mm-hmm.
that's essentially, I think, what this first one is trying to do.
Right. So
Yeah.
I guess, does that seem like a reasonable change in terms of the language?
For what it's worth, I like it. I think the strategy should be broad. The strategy, what you're articulating is the strategy is a little broader, and this, which seems kind of specific now on rereading, like strategy two, incent electrification of vehicles is like pretty broad.
Yeah.
Feels like a strategy. And so in that regard, if strategy one was reduce vehicle miles traveled, and then possible action step number one is develop a partnership, like literally that same language, it would, I think, read more consistently.
Yeah, and it's more outcome based.
I would support that change.
That's what I'm proposing.
Yeah.
Got it, Joe?
So if I'm hearing right, there'd essentially be underneath that.
No, I see you thinking, Keith.
Oh, go ahead, Keith.
I think I'm fine. What I was thinking through, just because we had this,
Yeah.
nonverbal moment, right? It's just so important in this space that I think I'm not sure always people understand how much we rely on partners to actually achieve that goal. So I'm fine with changing the goal in that we'd say, that we develop the partnership with those partners. I just want everyone to understand that we are, more so than ever, we are really dependent on our partners to achieve that. And I don't disagree. That's what I was just thinking through.
Now what you're talking about is a possible action step as opposed to the number one strategy.
Right.
Which, I mean,
Because then it's like, hey, well, how come you didn't develop this partnership, Dave and Keith?
Right, and I mean, to kind of that point, right? There are other things that have happened. If like that was our strategy, other things have happened that I've lifted up kind of the key idea behind that strategy. So maybe just kind of reordering that makes it a little bit more clear that if we're relying on partners and that doesn't move forward, there are other things that we as a community can do and are doing that attack that same kind of key point.
Right, the strategy doesn't die.
Yeah.
And I agree. I was just ruminating on
Yeah,
it.
you wanted everyone to know on the record.
So with this change, I'm assuming those 3 bullet points that were there go away, because those are all really subsets of the overarching the mobility strategic plan. And so we basically have 2 bullet points. We'd have the new one we added.
And what was the former strategy?
And what was the formal strategy, correct?
I think that makes sense.
Okay.
Yes.
You're
Perfect.
doing a great job, Joe.
Yeah, I think that's really good. Yeah,
Yeah, I
right
like
there,
that.
those two things primarily, that's what's going on.
All right, good stuff. Anything further on transportation?
And that truly is a red line.
That is truly
Yeah,
red line.
that truly is.
All right.
You are terrible.
Sorry. Strategy 2 says incent, strategy 3 says incentivize. Can we be consistent?
Incentivize.
Thank you.
Incentivize.
Good job, Andrew.
All right, on to education. Really, the change here on education is that addition of strategy 5. Increase outreach to contractors to promote electrification program, and you'll see a couple action steps under there with providing education to area HVAC contractors on availability of rebates and application process, and then expand rebate and heat pump outreach to new multifamily residential construction projects. And hopefully that captures a lot of what we discussed.
Yeah, I don't have any recommendations on changes, I'll just, for the record, say that I think this is a huge opportunity. The contractors are motivated, they should be motivated, so let's educate them and let them get the word out.
Absolutely. Any other adjustments to education needed? Anything we're missing?
Well, and did you capture the points underneath strategy 6, and then we'll circle back?
I've got this. You wanna watch me live type those or
Yeah.
No, that's good. So,
Clarify. It's a good look, clarify.
so strategy 6, per our earlier discussion, investigate adjustments to procurement policies at city BPW to incorporate sustainability practice. I'm just ignoring you all. And then, a bullet point under that would be review existing procurement policies. And then second bullet would be research best management practices and or policies to inform potential changes to current procurement policies. It's a little wordy, but we get the point. But Joe asked a really good question that I'm going to pose of, do we want to narrow this procurement policy to energy rather than, because it's the community energy plan?
Well, I think the intent is that the output relates to the community energy plan of all procurements could. I don't think that you could specifically put a box around what type of procurements those might be.
I think the box we're trying to figure out how large it is the sustainability practices of the vendor that we're evaluating. So are we evaluating the energy sustainability practices, or are we evaluating something broader than that in the determination of selection of that vendor?
So
it's a tough one.
So they like
Because it could, I mean, that could,
they don't use they use reusable water bottles versus they have hybrids.
you could get
Right.
involved in a lot of things
Something
there,
like that.
which
Whatever
I'm not
the-
passing judgment
yeah.
on. I'm just
Yeah.
But all we're doing here is just saying.
Researching.
I think it's important to research ways to layer in environmental stewardship into potential contractor scorecards.
And I think you would come back and tell us what you think are the best ways to do that.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah.
I think,
I would
yeah.
keep it broad right now.
Thank you.
Yep.
Very good.
good conversation.
Or Joe can tell you. I think it would be harder, honestly, I think it would be harder to research something.
That's limited.
Specific, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it would be like, how do I figure out the energy of this, it's just like, just start broad and then you
Yep.
narrow in.
Because we're have to look at, okay, what's the implementation of that look like, and
Yeah, I think,
this keeps it broad, and then we can
Yeah,
evaluate.
I mean,
all
there are
that.
going to be some that are really, really difficult to quantify, really impossible to quantify. And like, yeah, I don't know how we're going to be prescriptive given like the range of and breadth that we're actually talking about in procurement.
That's why
and
we're just
services.
investigating it, and we'll find out what we find out.
Because in some contracts, it's going to be fairly straightforward. Like you can pretty easily compare.
This is a
A
complicated
to B. And then in other ones,
topic.
it's going to be a huge mess.
Yeah.
Yeah, and some you'll see like two relatively similar things, and company A can tell you the 50 things that they're doing, and company B looks at you with a blank stare, right? And how you quantify that, I don't know, but.
Well,
And Mike, I'm sorry. go
I was
ahead.
just say, I think you can start by, there are organizations that do this already, so getting maybe a hand on what they are already doing, and then you can start using that as your reference guide to what you might be able to do.
Which is why one of the bullets is research,
Research.
just research
Right.
best practices and.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just to ping off of that, while we're trying to talk to businesses about a bunch of topics, this is another question you can ask businesses, is how they layer in environmental stewardship into supplier scorecards, because all of them, or many of them do to varying degrees, and from a research perspective, that's a great source of feedback.
Absolutely.
And helps with that meeting when you're like, here's all the stuff we want to talk to you about, and then it's another part of the conversation.
Excellent. Good discussion. Are we comfortable now with strategy 6? Good. Really brings us to the last one here, carbon offsets. And a couple changes here. One, I think we talked about, unfortunately, to date, we haven't been able to fully capture the information on the rec retirements and carbon offsets that our businesses are doing. So you'll see that target gets shifted a little bit on target 1. So we can make that more of something we really target over this next year and get in place. And then strategy 1 changes quite a bit here based on the discussions last time. That was really all set up around establishment of the community carbon fund last time. So you'll see this time it's really more focused on promoting it, which was a lot of our discussion in the last meeting. So strategy 1 changes to promote the community carbon fund, and then we have a couple new bullet points there. Make businesses and residents aware of the fund through new community marketing initiatives and targeted stakeholder meetings, and develop new eligible carbon reduction projects to inspire giving and achieve greater overall carbon reduction results. Hopefully that captures a lot of that discussion from last month. Anything further we need to add there? All right. If not, that strategy 2 is unchanged. I don't know if there's any comments or concerns there. Otherwise, that really brings us through.
Maybe one comment on the top target.
Sure.
So I guess 2 comments. One, is this something that there are other communities that already are doing this at that sort of level of quality? Like if you point to Ann Arbor, like when Ann Arbor is doing this, do they have 100% of the businesses that are, does anybody do that? And then I guess the second part, do we really are, like that seems like a challenging target. Should we change the target to be like of the top 50 customers, make sure we get those instead of 100% of business programs? So if like, you know, Joe's Meat Shop is like, I don't really care about them, and that's okay.
Focus on key accounts.
It's great that they're, but try to focus that on key accounts, at least for the first time to get that to happen.
I like that. I like the idea of focusing on key accounts because that's admittedly where we're going to focus a lot of our discussions, certainly to start. I mean, that.
Because that seems like because it didn't happen in 2022 for a number of reasons, but it doesn't seem like that's a thing that, like, you could capture 90% of it by focusing on key accounts.
Well,
or
we had
probably
100%
maybe
of the
more
ones
than
we knew about.
100% of the ones you knew about. But you could potentially like make a list of some number, like these are the top, I don't know what the right number is, but these are the top 20, the top 50 accounts. And we've ensured that of those top 50 accounts, we've captured 100% of those.
We use top 50 for our key accounts and at BPW, and so I think that's probably a good focus area. I'm kind of looking at Ted here a little bit, but I think that would be a really good thing. It would get us a long way. If you look at our energy usage too, that's a long way towards knowing, you know, what the situation is if we can get that canvas.
Just for the sake of the conversation, I'm comfortable with how it's worded currently. You can change it. Your behavior is not going to change. In order to do it as it was previously written, you need to talk to the key accounts because those are the companies that are more than likely having a carbon offset program. And in the event you talk to all 50 key accounts and you have 100% of knowledge of who's doing it already and you factor it into the calculation and you find out down the road that Joe's Meat Shop also is, you would just add that in. I mean, I don't know that your behavior, you're not changing your behavior either way. Just from a pure goal setting sort of standpoint, we do actually want to, like, if somebody's doing something, we would like to factor that into the calculation. So to me, you can change it or you can leave it, but I don't think it changes any of the behavior. So.
I think the reality is, like you said, that the large ones are the ones that are gonna go out and do it on their own. A lot of the others, that's what we're really trying to make that elective renewable rate more attractive so they have a path to do it easily. They might not have the staff to manage something a little more.
Yeah, I mean, the target should be 100%, and then, you know, downstream action items. This year, we're gonna meet with, we will have face-to-face conversations with the top 50 accounts. We will ask this question. We will get this answer. Did we do it or not? You know, that's just more down, what we're talking about here is just more downstream of the target.
An argument to keep it, Brian, to align with you, which is surprising, no, but to keep it, is really when you take a look at what we've done all through this, unless one of the targets we've already kind of accomplished it, we've not changed the targets. And there's something to me that kind of says, you know what, like we're not changing the levers, we're not changing the goal, we're not changing the targets, we're just sharpening our strategies. So, and we could change this one. I'm not saying that, but like it does kind of keep an approach, a theme.
Yeah, it's just, I just think it's like kind of a weird thing to like move to less than 100% because it's like, well, so we don't want to know if somebody's doing a carbon offset, you know? Whatever. Again.
I'm fine leaving it as is.
I agree with Brian.
Can you go down to the strategy 2 amendment?
Brian was actually right this time, in my opinion.
Yeah.
No, I think he's right. I mean, I think the way that that's written, you're not.
Yeah, because if you look at the behaviors, again, that's sort of established in strategy 2, right? That's, if you go down a little bit, there's.
Yep.
No, we have perform annual surveys to obtain accurate accounting of these purchases.
Lessening that would just lessen the whole
Yeah.
intent of everything, so.
Yeah, okay. All right.
Good. That really brings us through the document unless anybody has any further concerns, and that really gets us through all the proposed revisions.
So the goal really is, again, the last page has some statements about expected results, right? And that was, given the targets aren't changing, we feel very comfortable, I think, with the statements that are still being made here for our 2030 situation. And then further, last time, this group had governance recommendations and considerations. We haven't edited any of those. Some of those, I think, have come to fruition here a little bit in terms of consistency, for example. I think there's been really good consistency this time around, and then the reporting out process on an annual basis, that's something that we do. And then I think even there's information above that a little bit Yeah, I think, if we've really, I think we've pretty much hit on a lot of this. Now, I think there's a good reminder, so I'm not sure that you'd want to like take these out when this gets submitted, because it's good information for those that come after, especially if there's a turnover on council the next time the strategic development team is established. But just a reminder and awareness of why this is in here.
Just out of curiosity, how's the regular reporting? Like, are those, when you guys report out and every year, are those like some version of a engaging conversation where people have good questions and there's like actual real discussion, or is it kind of like a thing that happens and everyone moves on?
Don't ask me, honestly, I don't remember. That doesn't mean it's a litmus test.
No,
It's a data point.
I would say there's very distinctly a moment in time where it's presented, and that there continues to be very good work that the report that's used to present is, I think we've landed on a pretty good tool in order to do it. And then absolutely that's in a public meeting with council, and Mike may not remember it, but I think it's very appreciated, and that I think it generates good conversation. So I think it hits on all counts, and I think we should absolutely continue to do it.
And I know that the topic is meaningful to the council. I know that for certain. I just can't remember the timing of when we saw it. We've got so many things that come through.
Yeah, there hasn't been an update in the last 12 months because we knew this process was happening. So the last council update was probably 18 months ago. So that's part of the reason why it's hard to remember it. But yeah, we took the presentation and made basically the circular globe booklet out of it that's probably on the shelf out here. And that's like the community facing version of that report to give people updates on the progress. So that will continue beyond this once we have more updates out of this team.
Well, I'm glad to hear that you found it to be productive, and I mean, that was, I think, a big unlock last time, was like just to keep the content somewhat up to speed and fresh, because, you know, people forget and then bring things up that you guys have been working on. So I'm glad to hear that you found it to be productive.
And if it helped, like the Globe, not only in hard copy form have I handed that out to people that ask questions. I've used it with other communities that are like thinking about doing something in this space. And as Dave said, I can't say that I've looked at the metrics on the website, but we have that information out on the website too. That basically is a formulation of the same report. So I think we're hitting the marks.
That's great.
Great, thanks, Joel.
Good. Yeah, I think, unless you wanted to, I was just gonna say, I think the next step here really is just to get, for this group to recommend the report to go forward to council. I mean, we'll take this red line version, clean it up, obviously some formatting, but the content is what you see today, so. I think if everybody's
So
comfortable.
we would need a motion for that?
I'll make a motion to present it to council as written, considering if Keith can trust Joe to write the thing and Joe holds his hand and everybody gets it right. Anyways, I want all that in the motion. No, I'll make a motion to recommend it to council as written with the red line.
Kyle, you want to get in on this?
Support.
That's a motion by Peugeot, supported by Enbergs. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Thank
It's
you.
approved. Thank you. Any other business?
Go ahead. You can go. Making sure it's green. So what we'll do is we'll work through that. I'm not going to promise a date or anything, but when that is presented to council, we'll make sure that you are informed of that date and invited that you can attend that night. Because if you're able, that I think that would be great, because that it's not just, oh, it's a name and I think I know who Brian is, and it's not a requirement that you're there, but I think that's helpful. I can't recall, did we do it at a study session and then actually do kind of the pretty vote at a council? I think we did.
We had it in this room though, I think, for the purposes of being able to broadcast it. I think
Oh, that's right.
But it
stay tuned. We'll still decide kind of the best process in which to use, because that's exactly right. In some ways, you want to do it here so that it's captured more publicly in the council meeting. So stay tuned. We'll let you know if that's okay.
But this would be otherwise than the last action for this group, for this interval of time, you know, knowing that there's another SDT process coming on the cadence that we've been working on 3 years out, you know, convening again. So thank you. You know, I think all of us as staff here, thank you for your attention to this and to the great comments and dialogue and working relationship that is obviously established pretty well among this group. We did get through it in 6 months. I think some people said that was going to be impossible, but you know, so yeah. So
I had some recency bias around the last time we did it.
We haven't adjourned yet either.
That's true. But
PJ runs a much tighter ship, apparently.
but
I
thank
was
you
gonna say a very
much.
different chair. Yeah,
Leadership matters.
that's right. That's right. There are no bad teams, only bad leaders, guys.
Anything else? Motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
We are adjourned.
Now that it's off the record,